Hey, what's going on everyone? Richard here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and going over all the perks in Killing Floor 2 and making a tier list. Now, usually I do this with a script and everything, but I'm just going off the cuff and I have a few notes written down, but pretty much going to be winging this whole thing. So, to get started, we're going to be going over all the perks that were initially included in the early access version of the game. So that's going to be Berserker, Commando, you can do it, there we go, Commando, Field Medic, nope, too far. And finally, support. And then we're going to be going on with all the chronologically released perks. So then we'll do Demolitionist, Firebug, that's fine. And then we're going to be doing Sharpshooter and Gunslinger, followed by SWAT and then Survivalist for finishing off the tier list. There's a pretty simple criteria I'm using. It's going to be strength, you know, how strong is the perk? Ease of use, how easy is it for a new player to pick up and how hard is it to master? And finally, how well does it synergize with the rest of the team and other perks as well? So let's get started with Berserker. Now, Berserker, if you asked me a year or two ago, I would definitely say very strong. However, due to some recent balance changes over the year and a half, it's definitely bumped it down to a B tier perk. Unfortunately, nerfing Skirmisher kind of ruined a lot of the fun of the perk and some other minor nerfs to its resilience and stuff like that. The biggest I can think of is nerfing Parry. Parry was a very strong and a very core skill to the Berserker perk. Unfortunately, with that getting nerfed a little bit, it's made the perk a lot less fun and a lot less solid of a choice. Now you have to be constantly parrying, and I know that's sort of the point, or well, at least half of the point of playing Berserker. But I think the duration is a little bit too short now, and it just makes the perk a little bit harder to play. A lot of people did say that the Berserker was overpowered, and maybe in some cases, in some situations it was, definitely. But overall, I think the perk was pretty well balanced. Now, as far as ease of use, I mean, it's pretty simple. You hit, you block, and you parry. The game does a good job of encouraging you to do that through skills, through bonuses and stuff like that. So I think it directs you on the right path. There isn't a good learning curve, so it's not like super easy to master, but it's a rewarding perk to play. As far as synergy goes, it doesn't really disrupt other perks. So like Commandos aren't usually too upset by it. Sharpshooter and Gunslinger don't get pissed off when there's a Berserker nearby, just as long as you're not stealing their headshots or drawing aggro away and causing Zeds to run all over the place. Other than that, it's pretty good. And in that note, I would definitely make sure you take Spartan instead of the other skill that makes everybody flee. That can cause a lot of annoyance for other players, so just something to keep in mind. All right, moving on to the Commando. Commando is my favorite perk, so there's a little bit of bias here, unfortunately, but I think I can make a solid case for why it belongs in S tier. Now, as far as strength goes, it's a very solid trash killer, and it also can handle medium Zeds and even some large Zeds if need be. It can handle a single Scrake or a Flesh Pound if you have the FAL, or even the AK-12 is perfectly fine. As far as ease of use, it's not, the weapons don't have a ton of recoil, especially as you level up the perk. You start to get passive recoil reduction. The weapons do enough damage to where they can kill things in single headshots. There's not a ton of like weird gimmicky mechanics or anything like that. The only thing that is a little bit hard to understand is these Z time extensions. A lot of people don't know that, like, oh, you should like chain them and try to get Z time to last as long as possible. Some people think it's just like people do that to troll. In all honesty, that's one of the biggest selling points for Commando. So that is one dock against it. However, it's synergy. If you are using Z time, even if you're doing it wrong, like even if you're just like killing Zeds pretty quickly, that extra Z time does go a long way in helping perks like Support, Firebug, Gunslinger, and SWAT deal extra damage during Z time because they can fire at their normal fire rates while Z time is active. And SWAT and Firebug can actually fire at their normal fire rate and not expend ammunition. So those are both really awesome perks, or awesome benefits of the perk that play well with your team. And I think that justifies it as being an S tier essential perk. Moving on to the Field Medic, this is a hard one because you can make an argument for either one of these. However, I'm going to put it in very strong. And before you all cut my head off over this, the big thing I think that puts it in very strong over essential, over being an essential, is that a lot of other perks have supplemental healing. So Commando has his assault rifle, Sharpshooter has what's it? Oh god, Corruptor Carbine. There we go. I couldn't think of it. Gunslinger has its pistols. SWAT has its SMG. Support has the shotgun, and anybody can take a medic pistol too. It's only 1 kilogram, and you can upgrade it once to boost its healing and damage. So I think it's pretty easy to get some supplemental healing. However, big however, the healing is not the only reason why you like Field Medic. Field Medic can deal with trash pretty effectively. It can deal special status effects with like the Hemogoblin. Yes, that's how you pronounce it. It's not the hemoglobin. If you read it, it's Hemogoblin. Some of the other weapons also provide some nice bonuses. And overall, the ability to buff teammates with extra damage, extra speed, and extra damage absorption is a huge benefit, especially if you time it right. Like let's say, you know, your Berserker is about to take on 2 Skrakes that are raged. Well, you just bump him up with a bunch of shots. Now he has damage resistance and deals extra damage. He's going to be able to take that fight much easier as opposed to if he was just normal. And that also would stack with his parry bonus if he gets one. So, you know, a little bit of synergy goes a long way. And I think its strength is sort of meh if you factor in other perks' ability to heal. However, its ease of use and synergy is pretty much off the charts. Ugh. So that's why I'm putting it in A tier as a very strong perk. Support is another one that's kind of hard to weigh. I want to put it as essential, or I want to put it as very strong, but its ease of use is so good, and it's such a strong perk. The ability to use shotguns against pretty much any Zed and be effective is pretty strong. So the big thing with support is not only does it have shotguns that are good for pretty much any role, you can pretty much carry a full loadout that can handle any threat. You can have double barrel for stunning Skrakes, you can have an M4 for dealing with larges, and then you can have an HC-12 for dealing with trash. You know, you can take the AA-12 and Doomstick for a pretty versatile loadout. There's a lot of options when it comes to playing support, and I think that makes ease of use and strength very powerful. It also obviously heightens its synergy characteristic. I can't speak today. The ability to give ammo to your teammates is also really powerful. Again, it's only 1 magazine, but that's, you know, maybe 60 to 100 dash that's saved per player. And if you have, you know, 5 players on your team, that's a 500 dash per round that you're saving. And I think that's a pretty huge benefit. Moving on to Firebug, this one's kind of a hard one to rank too. So Firebug and Demolitionist suffer from the same problem, and I'll go over it again when we talk about Demolitionist. It has the same problem for different reasons. The Firebug is very good, we're putting it in C by the way, is very good at its job, and that's dealing with trash. It can also deal with large Zeds too relatively effectively, not as well as trash obviously, or not as well as other perks can deal with large Zeds, but it can deal with trash super well. However, its fire, its panic effect, and its sometimes out of control nature, especially with the spontaneous Zed explosions, that can cause problems for other perks like Commando, like Sharpshooter, like Gunslinger. So that's why I'm putting it in situational. Now, if you're in a formed team of people you know, Firebug is probably more close to A or B, just because you know how your teammates are going to play, you can coordinate and communicate. However, in pub games, you know, when that coordination is minimal, usually at best, Firebug can run into a lot more problems. So that's why I'm putting it at situational. Not because it's a bad perk, it's definitely not a bad perk. It's just the way it plays out in actual lobbies is a little bit more situational. Now we're going to skip over Sharpshooter and we're going to go over Demolitionist, and I'm going to be putting that in the same tier as Firebug. It has, again, the same problems. Explosions and big booms are awesome. They're cool. They deal a lot of damage. They blow up flesh pounds. They blow up groups of clots. However, they also rage Skrakes and can disrupt aim and just cause a lot of havoc when it's not really necessary. These two are known colloquial, I can't say that word. They're known as chaos perks, and essentially what that means is they can cause chaos among your team. They can, a nice orderly like firefight can turn into chaos when you start flinging rockets and fireballs and stuff. So again, you have to know your team, or you have to like kind of communicate where you're going to be and where you're going to be shooting, so that way you're not pissing off your Commando, pissing off your Gunslinger or Sharpshooter when they're trying to do headshots or Zed time extensions or takedowns on large Zeds. So again, if you can get the coordination or at least some basic communication using these perks, they're definitely B or A tier perks. But in a standard pub lobby with minimal communication, I would again say they're situational. Okay, moving on to Sharpshooter. Now, Sharpshooter, this one's kind of tough because if you looked at its effectiveness and synergy, it's definitely an A tier perk. However, its learning curve is a little bit rough. A lot of people that are good at first-person shooters probably, like, that are just like really good at aiming in general, probably would say it's an S tier, and I would probably agree in that case. However, for most people, the aiming in this game can be a little weird. You have to get used to how Zeds move. You have to get used to like crouching to take advantage of, I think it's the marksman skill. Whatever one gives you more damage for crouching. There's a lot of things you have to remember when using the Sharpshooter, and I think that kind of makes the ease of use plummet, especially with the higher learning curve. However, that being said, the Sharpshooter is it's pretty much an essential perk, but it just has a really steep learning curve. And its biggest ability, or biggest boon, for a lot of cases, or in a lot of cases, isn't its ability to deal with large Zeds, but its ability to proc Zed time. So every time you get a headshot, there's a chance with Sharpshooter at level 25 that you will get a free Zed time. So this is completely independent of any other chances to proc Zed time. So it's really good if you just want a ton of Zed time. And essentially the way it works is you have your Sharpshooters create Zed time, and you have your Commandos extend it, and then everybody else takes advantage of it. So that's why I'm putting Sharpshooter in very strong. Again, it's definitely a perk that you should try to master, or at least be good or proficient with, because it definitely pays off in the long run. All right, moving on to the next perk, we have the Gunslinger. Now, Gunslinger is another one of my favorite perks, and you can usually tell based on a lot of the footage I use, I play Gunslinger a lot. It's one of my favorite classes or perks in the game. It has a lot of good weapons, although one's particularly my favorite, but I'm going to put it in as an essential perk. It has some of the problems of Sharpshooter where it has a little bit more steep of a learning curve. However, what I think saves it is its high mobility, and it's a little bit more forgiving in close quarter. If you get stuck up close as a Sharpshooter, it's really dicey if you don't have an M14 or something else that can shoot fast. With Gunslinger, even if you have like Desert Eagles or 500s, you can punch your way out, and your additional speed can help you kind of kite away from that fight. Sharpshooters, I don't think, have that that much forgiving of a gameplay loop as Gunslinger. But either way, I think Gunslinger's value comes in its ability to quickly put down large Zeds, its high mobility, and it doesn't really cause problems with other perks. Now, obviously, you don't want to be stealing Commando's extension kills, and you don't want to be stealing Berserkers like parries. But other than that, the Gunslinger is a really solid perk, and definitely something you want at least one of these on your team if you can fit them in. All right, next we're going to be moving on to the SWAT, and SWAT is another perk that's kind of, it could fit anywhere depending on how your philosophy of the game is. However, in the way I view the game, I think SWAT is a solid choice. It gets maligned a lot as a weaker version of the Commando, and I think that's sort of unfair, and I understand why. They have very similar roles at dealing with trash. However, I think the SWAT is a little bit more economic at dealing with trash when using the right submachine gun. So like the MP5 is super good at dealing with trash per dollar or per dosh. So you can end up actually making a lot of money as the SWAT. However, it doesn't have a lot of the good skills that Commando does. So it obviously doesn't have the Z time extensions that Commando gets. And it also doesn't get Eat Lead or Hollow Point rounds, which I think are one of the strongest abilities for Commando. And that really sucks that the SWAT's missing out. It does get heavy armor and stuff like that, but I don't think that holds a candle to how powerful, extra 25 or 30% damage Hollow Points provides you, or an extra 100% ammo on assault rifles. Like, I know that's a passive thing for SWAT, but for assault rifles, I feel like that's a way bigger selling point. It almost feels like the extra ammo you get with SWAT is a baseline necessity to make the perk viable. But either way, that's my opinion. And finally, we're going to be moving on to the perk probably a lot of people are wondering where I'm going to put. I mean, Survivalist, we all kind of know how I feel about that. If you've watched any of my videos talking about the Survivalist, I kind of have a little bit of beef with it. And that's not to say it's not an effective perk. It can be a really good perk. However, I just feel, in my opinion, based on my experiences in the game, based on what I've seen, how survivalists play, based on, you know, the value other perks provide, I think it's not as strong as any other perk. And a lot of people will say, you know, oh, the survivalist is really, really good at filling in the gaps. I agree, but I don't think it outweighs the extra utility of just taking the right perk would be. So like, let's say you have a team with, you know, like two sharpshooters, a gunslinger, and a commando. You'd probably want some more trash cleaning abilities or maybe a medic. So, you know, you could go field medic because that kind of covers both bases. You know, medics aren't bad at killing trash, and, you know, combined with the commando, I think you can handle most trash in a match with those two perks. I don't think survivalist would be the best solution. Just because I don't think the utility it provides, like the healing it provides, is that it's okay. It's better than most perks, but it's not better than a field medic. Its trash killing abilities isn't better than a commando, SWAT, or firebug. Its large killing Zed ability isn't better than a demolitionist, a sharpshooter, a gunslinger, or even a support. So that's kind of why I put it in needs work. And I feel like, honestly, if Tripwire had thought out a better 10th perk and, you know, given it an actual role rather than survive, I think it would have made the game a lot more fun. It would have made it a lot more engaging. And I think, you know, it would make this list a lot harder for me to make, because for me, I kind of knew Survivalist was going to be the weakest on my list, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people love Survivalist, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to break your heart, but that's just how I feel about the game. And if you guys have your opinions on it, I would love to hear them. So if you want to put them in the comment section below, go right ahead. I'm going to link the actual tier list that I used to make this, so you guys can make your own lists. You can send them to me. Post them in the Discord. You can post them in the comments, you know, justify why you put each perk where. But yeah, I hope you all at least got some perspective on how I view the game and why I put each perk where it is on the list. But again, thank you all for watching. Until next time, happy hunting.